I'm going to say something completely crazy, and then I'm going to follow it up with something totally insane. When the book of Enoch says that 200 angels fell from heaven to earth, they don't mean from some intangible, ethereal place to the earth. They mean from one dimension to another dimension. That is, they mean they fell from a future dimension to our dimension, backwards in time. Now, where did I hear that?
The significance of UFOs is multiple parts, but number one, it's not what you think it is. It's not coming from other planets. The evidence doesn't suggest that.
Interdimensional.
Yes. And the reason is because time is parallel. It's not linear. Or it's not like we start here and go forward in time. Time is side by side, which means everything in the past and the future is existing in this moment, but within different frequencies. So a civilization that's at the end of their technological cycle could build a submarine that changes its voltage and materializes in that same location, just into our timeline. And then it's crazy.
Heaven isn't a place, it's a direction. 200 Annunaki fell from heaven. 200 Annunaki fell backwards in time. Now, what could be more insane than that? Well, they're still here, and their followers belong to a cult called the Cult of Cthullu, a cult that worships death, dark magic, and ritual sacrifice. Let there be no doubt that if you were a cult of death, the Venus apocalypse would be your holiday. This was death on a biblical scale. And Cthullu was their mascot. Of course, Cthullu is a character and a figure of the apocalypse. And if you want to see Cthullu himself, you're going to have to stick around. So you might as well click that like, share, and subscribe button and get ready for some of that warm, yummy feeling you get every time we connect some more dots. Welcome to Disclosure 30.3, Echoes of Atlantis. The Anunnaki cult of Cthullu is alive and well. It occurred to me that ripping out hearts was kind of a thing to some of the different folks around the globe in great antiquity, and that this itself might have some joint resonance. That is, they might be pointing at the same thing. The Mayan sacrifices, as immortalized in Mel Gibson's Apocalypto, for example. These dudes loved to rip the hearts out of people. This was their state religion, and it was a religion worshipping death on a large scale, with one celebration recording deaths well into the tens of thousands sacrificed. The unlucky were often chosen based on the alignment of the stars. It didn't matter if you were a worker or a princess. If your number was up, your number was up. Our blood belongs to the gods, and they demand it in sacrifice. This is a form of genetic pruning, with the description stating that the stars play a direct role in your fate. This is astrology writ large. It's one thing to read your horoscope, only to find out you should avoid Libras today. It's a completely different level of horoscope when the stars say that today you die. Does that sound insane to say killing happens when the stars align?
The Great Old Ones are obviously no longer here, their civilization long dead. However, they were not really dead because they aren't made of matter, but something else, and their very existence hinges around some astrology-sounding prophecy. When the stars are right, they live. When they are not, they are dead. Or, as it states in the Necronomicon, that is not dead which can eternal lie, and with strange aeons even death may die. When the stars went bad, the Old Ones went down to lie in their houses in their ancient city of R'lyeh, preserved by their priest who attended to them, Great Cthullu. Now, the city sank into the sea long ago, but when the stars come right again, their priest will awaken them so that he and all the other Great Old Ones can rule Earth once again as its masters. And there, waiting for them, will be the cult of Cthullu, and their reward will be to become just like the Old Ones themselves, free and wild and beyond morality. But until then, they must keep the ancient ways and rites alive.
Does it sound insane to say that the killing happens best when the stars align? I've discussed this before. President Ronald Reagan's wife used astrology throughout his presidency to manage everything on his calendar. and it was disruptive, so we're told. He was the first president to survive the assassination, the first president to bring down the Iron Curtain.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
And the first president to walk into the United Nations and say this.
In our obsession with antagonisms of the moment, we often forget how much unites all the members of humanity. Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world. And yet, I ask you, is not an alien force already among us? What could be more alien to the universal aspirations of our peoples than war and the threat of war?
The cult of Cthulhu is old, very, very old. So old, in fact, that its followers say that it predates man, meaning it is a function of the artificial intelligence, or what we might otherwise call gods. The one thing the gods don't want you to know is that the cult of death is always plotting, always planning, always preparing to cause death. But to really make it work on a very large scale, they need you to push the buttons. For that to happen, they need you to follow their authority.
And the only 3 things that will come out of your mouth. Yes, sir. No, sir. I, sir. Do you understand me? Yes, sir. Do you understand me? Yes, sir.
They need you not to question their elevated status. They need you to trust the science. Most importantly, they need you to know that they've figured it all out for us, and everything is just fine.
But the OECD data is consistent. This is not some aberration. This is happening, and it's on a huge scale, totally huge scale. Let's dive in straight away with Australia. Now, for weeks 1 to 34 in 2023 in Australia, there was 14,710 excess deaths, 16.8% above what we would expect, based on the 2015 to 2019 average. So 16.8% more deaths than we would expect in Australia in the first 34 weeks of 2023. Incredible, really.
Only in our complete and total unawareness can our trust be best violated. If you're going to tell a lie, tell a big lie and repeat it over and over and over, and people will come to believe you, especially if you come from an elevated position of power and people are compelled to do what you say, with grave consequences to your well-being if you don't. Oh, baby, when those conditions are just right, that's when the cult can do some real damage to us.
Brett Weinstein, evolutionary biologist and podcast host of the Dark Horse podcast, was recently interviewed by former Fox News propagandist Tucker Carlson. And Brett told Tucker something that sounds shocking, because it is, and it's wrong, which is that 17 million people have died from the COVID vaccine. That is quite a claim. Let's take a listen to what Brett had to say, gauge Tucker's reaction, and more generally, we will discuss it.
There was I was recently at a conference in Romania on the COVID crisis, and so there was a lot of work trying to unpack what we actually understand, and I saw a credible estimate of something like 17 million deaths globally from this technology. So
17 million deaths from the COVID vax?
Well, when you scale up to billions, it's not hard to reach a number like that with a technology this dangerous. Now, to your deeper question, I think
And by the way, these are not our subtitles. They're a mess, but I just want to make clear these are not our subtitles.
Steelman.
So just for perspective, I mean, that's like the death toll of a global war.
Yes, absolutely. This is a great tragedy of history. So that proportion. And amazingly, there is no way in which it's over. I mean, we are still apparently recommending these things for healthy children. Never stood any chance of getting any benefit from it. Every chance of suffering harms that are not only serious, but tragic on the basis that children have long lives ahead of them.
So listen, let's start anecdotally. Okay, the claim is 17 million people have been killed by the COVID vaccine, and it's continuing. Let's start anecdotally, which is not the way we do things, but sometimes it's useful to start with an anecdote just as a sniff test, and then we'll go further. Okay, first of all, does anybody in my audience know a single person who had a serious vaccine complication? Maybe there's a couple of you, okay? Sometimes that happens. Extremely rare. We have an audience in the millions. Certainly it's possible that someone in the audience, not you, but knows someone who had a serious vaccine complication. Maybe there's a few of you. Okay. Does anyone in my audience know of anybody personally, right, who died from the COVID vaccine? I assume the answer is 0, since almost no one, okay, almost no one has died from vaccine complications.
Anywho, 2 quick things to finish before we get to our first look at the origin of Cthulhu. Where do we find these cults?
In his interrogation, Castro reveals that the cult is not just ancient, but global, mentioning that one of the cult's major centres lies in China, and another lies in the Middle East, and the author of one of the cult's scriptures, the Necronomicon, comes from there.
China and the Middle East.
COVID-19 is targeted to attack Caucasians and black people. The people who are most immune are Ashkenazi Jews and Chinese.
These cult members represent criminal entities that are drivers of mass death.
China's triads are an old-school criminal group with a modern twist. They've been around for ages and are now an international network, known for their complex ceremonies, promises of loyalty, and the use of intimidating dragon symbols. The triads exist in a space where it's hard to separate legend from the truth. Their criminal actions vary widely. They're into things like blackmail, trafficking people, and making fake goods. But what makes the triads especially dangerous is how deeply they've embedded themselves in Chinese communities worldwide. They keep a mix of fear and respect among these communities, which keeps their power strong both inside and outside China. This deep connection with global Chinese communities means the triads aren't just a local problem. They're a far-reaching organization that uses a combination of community ties, tradition, and criminal activities to maintain influence and power on an international level, reflecting the complex and hidden nature of modern organized crime.
Peter Levenda asks in his Lovecraft series, what do all the radical Islamic sects have in common despite the fact that they hate each other? And the answer is, they all love death. Here's a perfect example of the cult of Cthulhu at work. These cult members looked to the north during the Venus apocalypse as the bow shock against the magnetosphere peeled back green electrostatic arms with a coronal bubble at the pole. As the surface of the earth was forever changed, the cult members were connected in a way with the death. They snapped, if you will, and became enamored rather than terrified with the beauty of all the death. And the monstrous figure overhead would make a grand addition to the pantheon of gods described in our oral histories. In fact, Cthulhu is also the Leviathan of the Bible and other mythology. Nothing out here like my work, folks. Not a single thing. Click that like, share, and subscribe button, and don't forget to leave me a comment down below. Peace out.
Well, as yesterday, I turned on my TV and what could I see? You might not believe me if we hadn't been conditioned to receive visions of violence and death almost daily. Yesterday, I turned on my TV and what did I see? You might not believe me if we hadn't been conditioned to receive visions of violence and death almost daily. And how can this be? Don't understand how we can be free, slaves to society. And when we see this is insanity, people, can you hear me? Am I speaking clearly? Lord, won't you take away all this pain? Give us a slap upside the brain and say, hey, wake up today. Got much time, I gotta make a change. I said, Lord, won't you take away all this pain? Give us a slap upside the brain and say, hey, it's a better day. The future's right now, can you feel the change? Feel the change. Gonna save when the oil runs dry, and how you gonna spend when no things to buy. Don't get yourself fooled and you're living a lie, cause life starts today and then tomorrow you die. And all around the world it's the same old scene, and you're living in a lie and it's time to break free. Just open up your eyes and maybe then you'll see more than just a product of reality. I said, Lord, won't you take away all this pain? Give us a slap upside the brain and say, here, wake up today. We got much time, we gotta make a change. I said, Lord, won't you take away all this pain? Give us a slap upside the brain and say, hey, it's a better day. The future's right now, can you feel the change? Feel the change. Wasn't quite clear, and my hopes and dreams had disappeared, and everything was replaced by peace. The blind stares of a million pairs of eyes, looking hard but never realize that alone life is full of pain, and together we can beat the change. Don't it seem strange? They lie to you, they lie to me. Wars in the games, destruction of society, it's day after day. It's what you see on TV, it's disinformation, fabricated fallacy. It's not reality, it's drugs or your unmanned drones, corrupt government banks. It's foreclosed homes, way up the bodies, waiting on the saving grace. So much of Babylon fall, counting days. Won't you take away all this pain? Give us a slap upside the brain and say, here, wake up today. Got much time, we gotta make a change. I said, Lord, won't you take away all this pain? Give us a slap upside the brain and say, hey, it's a better day. The future's right now, can you feel that change? Feel the change. Well, I said yesterday, I turned on my TV and what did I see? You might not believe me if you hadn't been conditioned to receive visions of violence and death almost daily. And yesterday, I turned on my TV and what did I see? You might not believe me if we hadn't been conditioned to receive visions of violence and death almost daily. And how can this be? Don't understand how we can be free. Slaves to society, and when will we see? This is insanity, people, can you hear me? Your mouths speaking clearly. Lord, won't you take away all this pain? Give us a slap upside the brain and say, here, wake up today. We got much time, we gotta make a change. I say, Lord, won't you take away all this pain? Give us a slap upside the brain and say, hey, it's better. better day. The future's right now, can you feel the change? Feel the change. Well, I said yesterday I turned off my TV.